founded. So even back then, people saw Islam as evil, and I guess there's always been Islamophobes. Um, let's see, what's another one here? 1669, the old believers in Russia believed that the end of the world would occur on this year. 20,000 burned themselves to death between 1969 and 1969 to protect themselves from the Antichrist. So, Puppy Turtle is asking if you could call in. So, would you guys want to let him in to the call?
Yeah, sure. Do we want to get him in now, or do we want to get through this bit first?
Yeah, let me get through this bit, and then I'll add him. Sure. The 1736, because a British theologian and mathematician, I'm skimming through a lot of these, predicted that there would be another worldwide flood similar to Noah's for October 13th, 1736. Let's see, and let me just do one more. 1832, Joseph Smith, the founder of the Mormon Church, says that he got it in a vision from God that the world would end on that day. So that's one of many the world prophecies that have failed to live up to the expectations, sadly. So
and I think two that we need to pay attention to. One was that Isaac Newton, in fact, as well as his studies of physics, he's also, well, he's not particularly well known for it, but he also did a lot of study into Christian theology.
Yeah.
And he predicted the second coming of Christ as sometime in 1941. And I think that Revelation says that the end of the world will be after 1,000 years of the reign of Christ. So I suppose you could say by that it would have been in 2941 that the world would have come to an end. But then, as we know, it seems fairly obvious, but the second coming of Christ didn't happen in 1941, or if it did, then nobody noticed.
Also, of course, the one that just failed to pass, May 21st, and I guess...
Yeah, that was the other one I meant to say, was Harold Camping, who's on your screen.
I guess the revised October 21st now, when the world is actually going to end, and of course the 2012 December 21st thing, which has always been an interesting one to me, because a lot of people notice that no people of Mayan descent actually claim this. It's all white people, like, oh, the Mayans meant this. Like, no, they didn't. But okay. So that's always been intriguing to me.
Yeah.
Social pressure. World War II, the incursions of Islam onto Christianity, the fact that Islam at that particular point in time was actually making incursions into Europe. You look at things, other end-time prophecies that actually occurred around the time of the Black Death. They all are there to actually give people, if you've done well by your religious standards, then you are going to go to heaven.
Yeah.
Yeah, I suppose, providing that you know that you're on the winning team, and also that the winning team isn't too keen on convincing you that everything you do is sinful.
Well, for one thing, if you're actually an adherent to a religion, you're certainly not going to think that you're doing it wrong, are you?
No,
although your priest will tell you on a weekly basis that you're dirty, rotten sinners and you deserve to go to hell.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
He tells you that right before he, touches your children inappropriately. Oh, wait, no, that's just Catholics. So, somebody's saying the audio is pretty bad.
Yeah, I should explain. Colin, our usual tech guy, is on holiday this week, and so I've stepped in, but I don't know how good it's sounding.
We should raise the volume.
Is it too quiet?
Yeah, I think they say it's also breaking up quite a bit. So
if it's breaking up, then I'm not quite sure what we do. We may have to abandon the show. I don't know.
Somebody's asking, where did he go for holiday? I don't know. Where did he go?
Why did he go for holiday? We need him.
Yeah, we need him. How selfish.
Yeah. Dereliction of duty.
Dereliction of duty.
I mean, this is an occasion where we can actually get together and have a vote of censure against him in his absence.
James, drop the Skeptic TV thing from the call and then re-add it.
Right. Okay.
Okay, that should hopefully work.
Do let us know in the Blog TV chat what it's sounding like now.
Yeah, can everyone hear us better now? I like how a woman says hi in the chat. Remember, it's like, hello, oh my god.
Yeah, can we have thumbs up and thumbs down in the chat?
Yeah, is the sound? Okay, somebody said it's fine now. Okay, for now. So. Yeah.
Okay. So where were we?
I completely forgot the point that I was making, but the fact is though that it's funny that all the females on my internet. No. So I just so the Mayan thing is that people fail to realize that the end the end of a calendar cycle. That would be as if every year people freaked out at December 31st. December 31st. Oh fuck! It's the end of the world. You know. But it's it's not what it's meant. You know, just after December 31st, you know what happens? Another cycle begins. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's worth saying that the 2012 prediction is not a prediction that was made by the Mayans. It was just that I think it was a science fiction author who studied the calendar and saw that it came to an end at the equivalent of our 2012, and then I think put 2 and 2 together and made 27.
Yeah. Well, James, unfortunately, I'm being called off for lunch, so I'm going to go ahead and add the puppy turtle to the call.
That's fine.
Have a discussion with him. It shouldn't take me more than 20 minutes to eat.
Okay.
Chat, asshole. Be back soon.
See you soon. Hello, puppy turtle.
Hello.
Hello, welcome to Skeptic TV.
Glad to be here.
Is there anything you particularly wanted to say before we continue?
Yeah, regarding prophecies, you do know people predict other things besides the end of the world, right?
Yes, that is true. I mean, we're going to come on to some of these in a minute. Particularly, one of the ones that's been in the YouTube a lot was Thick Shade's prophecy that the Gulf oil spill would need a nuclear cleanup. But is there something you wanted to point out in particular?
Yeah, I was going to bring up the fact that the Old Testament seems that the writers of the Old Testament seem to
Yeah, I was going to come to this at some point or other, but I think it's one of the ones that Nephilim 3 points out quite a lot is things like the fact that the names of, I think, the books in the Old Testament when translated and strung together, give a prophecy of the coming of Jesus.
They do. It's that's what it is it's the names of the first 10 patriarchs. When you get them together, when you put them together with their meaning and translate them, it's I believe it's man was appointed mortal sorrow, but the blessed God came down. His death shall bring the suffering rest. I believe was exactly what it was.
Right. I mean, the only thing that I would say that you need to consider from a skeptical point of view is that it's the Bible supporting the Bible. It's not possible that the Bible was written or translated or something, that these prophecies were woven in where they weren't originally.
The Bible must be part of the effort to prove the Bible, and here's why. We have to look at what the Bible says and see if it reflects reality. If you cannot look at what the Bible says and see if it reflects reality to prove the Bible, then you cannot look at the predictions of, say, evolution, and I'm not a creationist, by the way, you couldn't look at the predictions of that theory and use them to prove it because the theory is involved in the process.
Yeah, I mean, I completely lost train of thought on that now. I mean, what I would say is also, I mean, the Old Testament does, I think, very explicitly say that God will have a son and manifest on earth as a human being. And the thing is that that is true in Jewish, obviously in the Jewish Torah, which is basically the same as the Old Testament. The difference being that they think he hasn't come yet, whereas the Christians do. So whether or not it's a fulfilled prophecy is, I suppose, something which you could contest.
Yes, I suppose, but I mean, Jesus fit the bill so perfectly that it seems unlikely. I mean, how were they able to so effectively describe crucifixion prior to its existence?
Well, where does it say that in the Old Testament?
I do not recall.
Because obviously it was there in the New Testament, but that was obviously written after the invention of crucifixion. So yeah, whether or not it says it in the
I just actually made a little mistake there. What it was they successfully predicted that Jesus' bones would not be broken, whereas in a crucifixion they normally would have been, but in Jesus's they weren't.
Is there actually, does it say in the Bible that his bones weren't broken, or is there any evidence that they weren't?
I'm afraid you have. Well, I mean, there are two separate accounts. One saying that they wouldn't be, and another one saying that they weren't. Yes, they ended up both getting canonized, but they were still written separately.
Right. But then they disagree, either one's correct, or I suppose one has to be correct and one has to be correct, assuming that Jesus was crucified.
But one said that Jesus' bones would not be broken. The other one went on to say after it happened that they indeed were not broken.
What does the other one say? Sorry, I missed that.
In the Old Testament, it said that Jesus' bones would not be broken. In the New Testament, it says that it actually says that his bones, it says the prophecy that was fulfilled, his bones indeed weren't broken, even though in a crucifixion they would normally break the bones.
Right. Again, as I say, the trouble is that the New Testament was in the light of the Old Testament. So there's no reason why the authors could not have put in a detail like that to make sure that the prophecy was fulfilled. You're only taking the Bible's word for it on that. It's rather like the Harry Potter books. There's a prophecy in the Harry Potter books, and obviously J.K. Rowling knew how it would end when she started writing it, and so that can obviously work. Or if you started writing a book and you put a prophecy in the beginning, then it's not too hard to follow it through for the rest of the book. So again, it's the Bible proving the Bible, which doesn't really get us anywhere. I think if something like if the body of Jesus were found, and obviously it wasn't because he ascended to heaven, but if it were found and it were found that he were crucified, but that he didn't have broken bones in his hand, then we might be onto something.
Actually, that is the body for the possibility for the truth of Christianity.
Does it say that will happen?
That would mean that he hadn't resurrected.
Right. Okay.
So no, that's the.
But then again, the trouble is that, of course, if you find a body and you say you think it might be Jesus, well, then they say, well, obviously not, because he went to heaven, you wouldn't find him. So it's a bit of an untestable idea.
Well, one of the problems with finding Jesus' body is we don't actually know, A, what he looked like, what his actual heritage was. We can't do any kind of DNA fingerprinting with him. And he'd just actually be another body. So we may have actually found the biblical JC already.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, but again, as you say, as I said before, if somebody says this is the body of Jesus, then the Christians will just say, no, it isn't, because you won't be able to find it. I still hope that they actually managed to reconstruct the picture of Jesus. I'll see if I can find it and put it on the screen as an image of what he looked like. I think they probably just did a generic Middle Eastern man from the time of the 1st century AD.
I mean, okay. I mean, there's the there's the myth of him having long hair, which we know it would not be the case. I mean, I have to admit, I'm partially in here to escape the guy in Boxley who were trying to explain to this grown man that who is it, Chris Angel is not actually a wizard. It's true. I'm making that up.
It's been on the internet far too long now to know that there are endless people like this.
It's like there's a JREF member in there and everything, trying to explain to him.
And presumably, of course, he's saying that it's some kind of a conspiracy or a cover-up, or they don't know what he knows.
No, what he does is he will admit that he'll say, okay, I was wrong, and then 20 minutes later he'll bring it back up.
What? So he concedes defeat and then starts all over again. Is that what you're trying to tell me?
Yes, he does.
Well, that's a new one. I know people who stick to their guns in spite of all evidence to the contrary, but not people who accept defeat and then come back with the same argument again.
You haven't been on the internet that long, then, because that.
People don't listen to what you've said and come back with the same argument. But this is well, maybe he doesn't listen and he says I admit I was wrong for no apparent reason. But I mean, it's also, I want to know exactly, nobody who ever studies the Bible and comes up with these kinds of predictions, I'm thinking people along the lines of Thick Shades, who predicted that the Gulf oil spill would need nuclear weapons of some kind to clean it up. Very few of them ever show any kind of workings out. I mean, Harold Camping, who recently, as you know, predicted the Rapture.
You have to understand about that. It's not that he didn't come back. It just turned out that they thought he was going to come back in a very physical way. He ended up coming back in a spiritual kind of new agey hippie way. Right, well that isn't what Camping was saying. He was saying that people would disappear from the face of the earth. I'm aware of people, but... Yes. But so, do you believe that something actually something significant in terms of Christianity happened on May 21st? No, and I honestly do. I can imagine if I can imagine Jesus up in heaven saying, "What part of no one knows the day or the hour is so freaking difficult to grasp?" Jesus very specifically said, "We don't know. We shouldn't waste our time trying to predict it. We shouldn't act as if we can do anything we want because Jesus is just going to come back and save us. We should not act like idiots. And we should, you know, his words are very specific. There's no ambiguity to no one knows the day or the hour." Yeah, I mean, as I say, Harold Camping was actually people down to numerology. The trouble is that he's talking about the fact that a specific date or whatever, it's equal to, I think it was something like 5 times 10 times 17 times 5 times 10 times
Well, here's what it was.
17.
Here's what it was. This one number equaled this one equaled some certain thing because Harold Camping says so. Another number equaled another thing because Harold Camping says so. And when you add the numbers together, and there was a third one that equaled a third thing because Harold Camping said so. And so when you add the numbers that he made up together and try to interpret the symbolic meaning that he made up and attached to them, he eventually gets a date, which by extension comes from the same place that the symbolic meanings of the number is out.
The trouble was, though, is that, for instance, one of the dates was, he said it was equal to 5 times 10 times 17 times 5 times 10 times 17. Well, you could say that that's the same as 25 times 100 times whatever 17 squared is. He just seems to be plucking out the factors that suit his purpose. It's not even as if they're all prime, so you
can use the same ones made up for the 1984 prediction, I think, or something like that.
Yeah, so, I mean, I'm guessing that there will be lots of dates that will fit the bill in future. But this is what I'm trying to say, is that at least he actually showed his working, so we know how full of crap it is. The trouble is that, I mean, it was on the Magic Sandwich Show that Thick Shades made the prediction that the Gulf oil spill would need a nuclear cleanup. They didn't. Sorry?
That was on the League of Reason blog, you know.
Oh, yeah. But the thing is that they didn't actually press him to share his workings out, because there are all sorts of things like the supposed 9/11 prediction in the Bible. I think it's in the Book of Revelations. If you take every 9th letter and you arrange it into an 11 by 11 grid, then you can pick out words that say something like "towers fall" or something.
The dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life.
But the thing about it is that they come up with all this and they show all the reasoning and things afterwards. Very seldom does anybody actually give their mathematical or philosophical reasoning behind their predictions prior to the event. And I'm going to come on to this in a minute, the drawing the target around the bullseye. But there is an awful lot of this.
That's the sharpshooter fallacy. Yeah, and I mean, I like to think I'm a Christian, but I am relatively skeptical of things. I'm from Missouri, which explains, I think, some of it.
Right. Well, I don't know anything about the American geography, so it makes sense to me, but I'm sure the
people from Missouri are especially skeptical.
Right.
I've never heard that, especially since Missouri is right in the middle of the Bible Belt.
The way it got its nickname, the Show Me States, is from people that are supposed to be especially skeptical.
Oh, I didn't even know that was the motto for it or whatever.
Okay. So maybe if they're that skeptical but they're in the Bible Belt, maybe they're correct. Who knows?
I think is everything else.
Okay.
That may be more appropriate.
But there's things like the supposed biblical prophecy of the formation of the State of Israel in 1947, if I'm correct. But again, the trouble is that nobody made this prediction prior to 1947. It's very easy to come up with these sorts of things afterwards.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll confess that prophecies are not my favorite method of Bible proving. What I'll typically do is try to use the historical evidence regarding the past, because we can work with that. A prophecy is only valid if you if you have to set it up ahead of time. So I know, like, well, prove you to me. Okay, I have to now do it, and it has to sit there and cook for 3 years. Then I have my fulfilled truth.
Well, the problem is that all these so-called prophecies that somehow prove the Bible to be real, they're all hindsight prophecies. They're like, oh, look, it's like if no one made this claim beforehand, like, oh, look, Israel was whatever, found or recreated in 1947, and look, here in the Bible it says the exact same thing. You know, it's
never
all hindsight prophecy. No, I know that it doesn't say that, but it's just hindsight prophecy.
I know it doesn't say 19, or at least I'm 99% sure it doesn't say 1947.
It doesn't say any specific date in the Bible for anything.
No, and it would have been a Jewish year if it had been, but no.
That too.
I mean, the only dates that you are I believe actually the symbolic ages, because I'm not a young Earth creationist. I don't. So other than that 6,000 date that they get, that's the only date, and it's clearly an artifact of symbology.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I suppose the other thing, which I don't know whether or not we want to move on from hindsight prophecies, but the other tactic is, rather than make the evidence fit or rather make up a prophecy that fits the happening, is to create a prophecy that is so vague that anything which will fit the bill.
Two rocks will war for a long time, and then
something like that.
That's actually a quote from Nostradamus. The thing about his quatrains is nobody can find a prophecy Nostradamus quatrains, say it's going to happen, and then it comes to pass.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I did want to come on to Nostradamus because some of the things that he predicted, things like the Second World War allegedly, and I think it's something like he talks about somebody who was born into a poor family but rises to high political power and then
he mentions
conquers different lands or something. It's supposed to relate to Hitler.
The two prophecies that are I think the most vivid from Nostradamus are one that's supposed to predict the Twin Towers. It says it's from the year. It actually mentions the year 1999 as the date of it, and people will say, "Well,
move 1999 around and you get 9/11." Ho ho.
Yeah. Probably like it was a numerical anagram or whatever for
Also, the reason that people or the whole 9/11 one, they say that Nostradamus had some kind of revelation or prophecy or whatever, where he says that the new city, which is located in whatever.
It doesn't mention its location. It just says
no. It does mention its location. It says that it's
throughout the new city or whatever.
No. It does state a location near a certain point of latitude, and that's like a few. It's a few degrees. It's a couple. People are like, "Oh my God, New York's really close to that." It's actually pretty far off. If you actually go by the latitude that he claims, it's like I think somewhere in Canada. But they say fire will engulf the new city. Oh my God, New York, and so it's
Knew anymore by that time. It was at least 200 years old.
No, but I think they just mean the whole New York aspect of it, though.
Yeah, it's so good they named it twice. There's also. The thing is that a lot of Nostradamus's prophecies are things which, given a long enough space of time, are going to happen. Things like the fact that he predicted some world leader coming from humble backgrounds. Not only is that something which was almost certainly going to happen, but it's something which sort of catches with the public, because the public, or the largest proportion in any society, is always the lowest classes. And so the possibility of revolution by the lower classes is always likely, or rather, certainly not far from impossible. So to make a prediction like that, there have been hundreds of public uprisings in history, and almost certainly were plenty before Nostradamus' time. So I think that's a bit of a non-prediction. He also predicted things called pigmen, which some claim are the gas masks worn in World War II, which is tenuous at the best of times. I mean, even if you ignore that, there may be a time when, say, pigs are genetically modified with some protein from a human being, or vice versa, and people will jump on that and see it as Nostradamus' prediction. The trouble is that you can fit...
It's not the gas masks anymore. Now it's this new thing that it fits better. The prophecy would be reappropriated. It now predicts a new thing.
Yeah.
Sorry. I interrupt. Sorry.
And I've talked to him a couple of times in the past. If you would want to get him into the call.
Absolutely, as he hasn't yet sent a contact request.
Oh no, it's with me. That's someone I know. So there he is.
You know what my favorite one of Nostradamus' prophecies is? Hitler.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds really close to Hitler.
Yeah. There's always, it's like, it sounds like if you move around a letter or two, that's all these Nostradamians work off of is oh, it sounds like this, so it must be true.
It's only 2 letters away from Hitler.
Okay, who's leading this?
I should say, well, hello, Headless Chicken, and welcome to Skeptic TV.
Who's leading this call here? Oh, there, everyone just went away.
What?
Hello?
Hello, can you...
Dropped at his end.
You have
Okay.
Headless. You have to mute us on Skype. You have to.
Oh,
on
right.
Blog TV.
There we go.
Right, okay.
Okay.
Yes, now.
When I just got into the Blog TV, you guys were talking about the Twin Tower quatrain.
Yes.
Yeah, that's fake.
Oh, really?
Yes, it is.
The Nostradamus prediction is fake.
The Nostradamus prediction of 9/11 is actually fake.
Oh.
Really?
Yes. All you have to do is write like Nostradamus, and you can create a quatrain like he did and get people to believe it because they think he wrote it. He wrote so much stuff that at some point, something he wrote will come true.
Well, there's also a fake one that that got spread around around the 2000 election that that after George Bush won, that was supposed to be a Nostradamus prediction. It was apparently a fake. Let me try to find it here. Come the millennium, month 12. Come the millennium, month 12. In the home of the greatest power, the village idiot will come forth to be acclaimed the leader. That's
Is that Bush?
Yeah, that's they said that was supposed to be Bush, but
Yeah, that doesn't sound like Nostradamus, although of course he translated.
No, wait. That would be predicting Neff being elected president, not Bush.
No, because Nelson Free's not a village idiot.
No, he doesn't live in a village, he lives on his own.
Yeah.
So he doesn't live on his own. He doesn't live on his own.
live off disability checks. So
All right.
True.
All right. Well, let's leave now. Let's just leave Neff one out of this.
Neff out of this one.
That's getting way off topic.
That was that was a fake Nostradamian prophecy. Just say, elevator smell different, 2 midgets.
The only Confucius say statement I have ever known to be true is man who goes to bed with itchy bum wakes up with smelly finger. Believe it or not, that's the only one.
Fucking.
But he didn't really say that, did he?
I've never been able to disprove it, but then I've really never tried hard.
The things that he really said were all fairly deep and profound, things like the golden
Well, that is
rule,
deep
like
and profound, very obvious, and at the same time, it can be profound.
True.
Yeah.
Although, of course, he didn't make predictions. He just
No, he only made statements.
He was the observational comedian of his day.
See, from what I know of Nostradamus, he was basically an opportunist. He had an opportunity to make money. He had a reputation as being a guy who could predict things. He had an in with the royal family. I believe I want to say Spain. And they were willing to pay him money. And at that time, you kept people like that on your staff. because you needed them.
Well, of course. I mean, that's why the Romanovs had Rasputin.
Right. So as long as he kept writing stuff, and it kept mostly it was the Queen intrigued, he was paid.
Woohoo!
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a rather nice job, by the sound of it. If you just need to intrigue people.
You'll see on like the History Channel and the Learning Channel and the Discovery Channel, they talk about Nostradamus.
He's the coffin of his day.
He's got this beret thing on with long hair and dreadlocks. He supposedly is like some guy who studies Nostradamus in a university.
All
the
those
guy
people are
books
full of
on it.
shit.
He really is.
Mythology.
Yeah, because he states that the Antichrists are Napoleon, Hitler, and the Ayatollah Khomeini. The Ayatollah, the Shah of Iran.
People who are all dead now.
Now, Iran, the Ayatollah dies. The guy reprints the same book. Poppy Turtle, wait a second. He reprints the same book, and now the three coming Antichrists are Napoleon, Hitler, and Saddam Hussein.
Oh, wait, but we hung him.
It's the prophecy.
They've got to remember, Nostradamus was late medieval, and the late medieval mind was very, very different to the way that we think nowadays. It was actually traditional that whenever a member of royalty or a member of the nobility was born, certain, traditions would actually come to the fore. And one of those was people had to make predictions.
Mm-hmm.
And if you had somebody making very, very grandiose predictions, then basically you were higher up the food chain.
Yeah, people.
Have you ever seen that TV show, The Nostradamus Effect?
Yes.
They argue that, like, if you can get multiple doomsday prophecies concurring, like coming together and saying the same thing, it's more legitimate. So their third Antichrist is the Antichrist from the Bible, because then they can get it to predict the same thing.
Listen, I'll give you this, Puppy Turtle. If you could find me 5 doomsayers, not current ones, like that Harold Camping guy, but 5 historical ones, like a Nostradamus, and 4 other unrelated ones, who all predict the same thing around the same time. So I'll give you, give it to a year, okay? I won't worry about an event, but just to a year. That would radically change the way we do things or how the world works. I would say correct. What's a big statement and nobody else wants to back it up? Your statement is a little fuzzy. But if you got 5 of these guys all doing the same thing and they're unrelated, then their prophecy seems a little more legitimate.
Yeah.
Because they all come from different places and different backgrounds, and they're all prophesizing the same thing. But you don't get that.
No,
well, that'd actually make it scientific, wouldn't it? You'd be doing a study.
You have a blind. Yeah, you're right. You have a blind. You just, what is that? Blind test. Yeah, because you got 2 prophets predicting the same thing, and they don't know each other, and they come from 2 different cultures. So it's not like they're just following a cultural, trend.
Yeah.
I mean, while we're still roughly on the subject of 9/11 predictions, I do want to bring up one of the more interesting ones from recent years. This is a man, I've just forgotten his name already.
You didn't see that coming.
Sorry?
You didn't see that coming.
This was a man documented on the BBC television network Channel 4 as the man who paints the future. I'll just see if I can find his name. But he has dreams which he then paints into pictures which supposedly depict future events. Or his name's David Mandel. But he predicted the 9/11 attacks supposedly prior to the event. Let me just first of all see if I can find you his painting. I'll put it somewhere online.
There are a lot of people who came forward after 9/11 claiming to have had dreams showing it. It does boggle the mind. Why weren't they arrested for beforehand?
Yeah. But then
after strange aircraft seen in the sky, people come forward saying they saw UFOs.
Yeah, I mean,
and were abducted by aliens, were probed, and went off in a spaceship with the lizard people and came back.
Yeah, I mean, people always want some kind. I mean, people are fucking stupid. They come up. They will admit to doing stuff they didn't do. Like, for example, I was playing L.A. Noire recently, so it just kind of thought this up. But the Black Dahlia murder. Do you know how many people have come up to say they did it?
Yeah,
for no reason other than the fact that they would be famous for it.
I'm trying to say this man is something of an exception. First of all, there is on the screen the picture that he supposedly painted in advance of the 9/11 attacks. The World Trade Center is up to left, right of centre. They are rather very.
That's absolutely proof that he.
Well, no, this isn't. That in itself isn't proof. Because he obviously was intelligent enough to realise that people wouldn't take him seriously if he comes forward after the event. So what he started doing, well, first of all, it was after he started realising that his dreams would come true, is when he started painting them, in spite of his general lack of painting ability. But he would, each new painting that he would do, he would go down to his local bank where there is a wall-mounted calendar and a clock, and he would have his photo taken with the painting in front of them. So you could see the date on which it was painted. And as far as we know, there is no reason, the bank said that there would be no reason why the calendar would be adjusted. So
what kind of photography is he using?
I think this was back in the good old days of film cameras.
Was he using a Polaroid?
I don't think he was. I can't remember off the top of my head, so I won't make anything up. But I think
because an instant Polaroid photo is a little harder to doctor than one that uses a negative.
Yes, that's true.
Just going with that. Even nowadays with Photoshop, it's real easy and anyone can do it. Back then, it would take at least someone with some skill in photography to doctor a photo.
Or some glue and scissors.
However, let's also look at the fact that back in the 1970s there was a film called The Medusa Touch, which featured I think it was a Boeing 747 going into a tower block. Then there was also...
it could have been that, this was some kind of deep inspiration for his dreams. I should also, I'll put it up on screen as well, he predicted the Concorde match.
Wait a minute. Late 40s, early 50s, I think it was. There was a plane that struck the Empire State Building.
1945, B-25.
Yeah. Thank you. Right, but no one predicted that. But the more airplanes you have around and the more tall buildings you have around, at some point something's going to happen.
Go down after a while.
Concords were getting old.
Yeah, I mean...
Now you start getting the mechanical failures. All I got to do is say there's going to be a crash.
I mean, so...
There's a lot of Concords. And
I predict a plane will crash within the week. Boom.
Well, back in the 1980s, I was an officer in the Army Intelligence Corps, okay? And we actually sat down on one of our little toots, Tactical Exercise of the Troops, which basically is a gaming exercise.
What do you do?
It is a gaming exercise. You game out potential problems. And then being crashed into London.
Oh, you're just running scenarios like
this? Back of people's minds.
Yeah, okay.
What happens if you get a hijacker who's willing to actually fly this into a large building?
Mm-hmm.
That is the kind of thing that people are worried about. And because we were doing it for real 20 years beforehand, does that mean to say I made a prediction?
Well, it's also like all these 9/11 conspiracy theorists who believe that, the United States has run scenarios like this before, so it was really practice for the real thing, and they decided to pull...
Lewis, I've never been able to really confirm it, but I've always heard of a plan from the Cold War that the United States has a plan to invade Canada and take the capital. Okay?
Why?
Well, because during the war, we're neither on the U.S. side or the Russian side. When you have the Russian bear bombers flying overhead, we're in between it all. And Canada really wasn't on anyone's side. We were building the Avro Aero, which challenged the U.S. Aero industry because their plane industry, because we were actually building one better than they were. The plan actually stated, do not attempt in the wintertime.
Blame Canada.
Puppy turtle. We might be America's hat. Remember
One of
that.
the things about Canada and America is that if Russia had have tried to come in through Canada, then yes,
Right.
American troops would have moved up there. We had a similar plan for Ireland in 1940.
Right.
They would have come through Mexico. They would have been fucked because all those Texans would have gone apeshit.
Yeah. What's with the picture on the screen here? I have to ask, is that a pair of 3D glasses on that has a guy sitting on a naked guy sitting on a wooded paper airplane?
I don't see the picture.
I can tell you for starters that I can tell you for starters that that's the French flag, not a pair of 3D glasses.
Okay.
That is supposed to be. I'm not quite sure what the little chap in the brown boat-like thing at the bottom is doing, but it supposedly depicts the Concorde crash. I can't remember the date of it now.
So this is the painting the guy had from the dream?
Yes.
That doesn't predict a Concorde crash anywhere. I've got trees, I've got a couple of plane-like objects, and I got a guy waving. If the line coming out of him to the flag, I don't think that's a French flag. That might be a Dutch flag upside down.
Was the pilot of the crashed Concorde completely naked like the guy in the picture?
Yes.
With flames coming out the back.
If anything,
The boat with the thing that looks backwards that looks like a duck head with teeth.
if anything,
Can I just say that?
just calm down. If anything, it seems like it would predict to me the. It seems like it predicts the song "Paper Planes" by MIA.
Guys, we've taken the same image and someone says predicts a Concorde crash, and we've all seen different things in it. If you're going to make a prediction,
there is a swept-wing aircraft which looks not dissimilar to Concorde. There is the French flag, and the plane crash was in France. But can I just share the conclusion of this documentary?
Actually, I'd say that plane looks like an Avro Aero.
No, the plane the naked guy saw looked like.
I'm sure that is a plane that the naked person is sitting on. I'm not sure what it is.
Much longer, thinner fuselage and shorter wings to the back, where the Avro Aero was a delta wing.
I think we are getting a little picky about his painting abilities.
Yes, I think we are. He's not the best painter in the world,
but it still can be interpreted in thousands of ways.
Yeah,
come on.
Can I tell you the conclusion of this documentary, because this is probably the most interesting detail of it. They asked this man, David Mandel, to paint his next dream and then show it on national television so that we could have his next prophecy, and then we could tell whether or not it really happened. And it was another plane crash, and okay, that they're not uncommon events. But they had a look at the scenery that he had drawn behind it. I haven't got a picture of it, unfortunately. And they tried to find airports that actually found an airport just outside London, which seems to fit the bill. They took him there and they said, "Is this the place in your dream?" And he said, "Yes, absolutely." And so we are looking for a plane crash at this airport. He didn't say any date of when, so unfortunately, we have
what's the name of the airfield?
I cannot remember off the name of.
You said it's outside of London. Is it Stansted?
It's not Stansted, Heathrow, or Gatwick.
Is it just a small strip somewhere like? I'm trying to think.
Yeah, and there's water near the runway, which is part of the prediction. I think there are 2 gas cylinders in the background. But as far as I know, no, there haven't been any plane crashes at British airports. I think there was like an emergency landing at Heathrow or something. But this was,
it depends on what he defines as a plane crash. I mean, any kind of aerial incident will actually be in the CAA.
I think there were flames, and we would certainly have seen that on the news.
This thing is very complicated because actually keep a register of all aircraft that have been in any kind of incident.
Yeah, I mean, I think it hasn't happened because otherwise, I think it was London City Airport. Let me see.
Well, that's actually in the middle of London.
Yeah.
Well, either way, let's not get bogged down on the details. I mean,
Yes, it was. It was London City Airport.
Oh, London City Airport accident
If I'm
there.
correct, there is water around the runway.
Well, it's actually
Yes, and there's an industrial.
The old dock, is it? It's actually on the Thames itself.
Yeah, it's not too far from the O2.
Well, it's obviously,
Yeah, and so.
Has anyone ever noticed anything about construction of airports?
What about them?
At the end of the runways, usually for takeoff and landing, there's usually always a large field or at times a body of water, but they never go towards the city.
Why do you think that is?
It's got somewhere to go.
If you have something called IFATO, which is an engine failure at takeoff, you can do one of two things. The impossible turn and get back onto the runway, or you can just basically go straight ahead and land on whatever you can.
Yeah. Right. So you got to provide something at the end of the runway to hit.
Absolutely. One thing that really tacks me off is the fact that there's normally a bloody golf course at the end of a runway.
But generally, it's not. Rick, generally, it's not a suburb.
Again, it depends. I mean, I was actually looking at Nelson today in British Columbia. And they've got a beautiful little airfield. I'd love to fly into it. But it's a case of it depends on where you are. Down in the southern states, you get lots of these literally tiny little strips with one runway. Generally, because I learned to fly in Georgia, and you get lots of north-south runways there. And you can literally just be trucking along, and you see another little runway down below you that you didn't even know existed. Yeah. So they're all over the place. People bring to you. And you think car parks, where people actually build their houses on an airfield.
The fact is, though, that accidents happen. Eventually, every single airport has experienced one accident or another. So, it's you know, the fact is, this guy's prophecy or whatever coming true is not a question of if, it's a question of when. I mean, like I said.
I mean, yes, a plane crash at an airport.
An aircraft finally has got to come out of the sky, and whether it does that safely, it's called a landing. If it does it unsafely, it's called a crash. Every aircraft's going to go through that transition at some point.
So, Rick, what you're saying then is a landing is just a controlled crash.
Oh, absolutely.
Pretty much.
I mean, a plane crash at an airport.
You're doing the same thing, just you happen to stop it before you got there.
No, you're not waving your hands in the air screaming, I'm going to die, I'm going to die.
Yeah.
Through column. I can say that, the pilot.
Yeah.
But so anyway, at least the makers of this documentary had the sense to try and get some kind of a prediction out of him before the event that, you know, it was on record, there's no denying that it was made in advance of it. And yes, so far, since that prediction, there haven't been any serious accidents at London City Airport. But it's
what picture is this airport of?
That is London City Airport. That is the airport.
So if I was to land a plane, am I going away from the viewer or towards the viewer?
I don't know. I don't know. I think
runways go both ways.
Okay, no, all right. So it wouldn't matter. It just depends on my approach.
Just make sure you're going in the long direction. Okay.
Yeah. If runway's going wide, you have a problem.
Yeah. But yeah.
Oh, they don't have to, though.
No, they don't have to.
All right. I was just wondering because of I don't see
I don't know if London City's actually got any restrictions because it is in the city.
Yeah.
But most of the aircraft that go in there are kind of private jets and that kind of thing. So
yeah,
I would imagine
big private jets would have a hard time landing in such a small.
I don't know. You could get a flotation in there or something like that.
But anyway, so as I say, I suspect that more people have been documenting his predictions since then, so we are keeping better records of it. But it's an interesting, it's potentially more convincing than any of the other predictions we've talked about this evening.
Excuse me, I'd like to make a doomsday prediction. In several billion years, Andromeda and the Milky Way are going to crash, are going to collide, and about the same time, this is going to explode. One of
Yes,
those
well-
is going to kill us.
Well, this is kind of the topic I was about to move on to, which is the predictions of science, because in fact science is often the best prophet of anything really.
Yeah,
I mean,
but
you can-
science also bases what it's trying to prophesy, or rather, I won't say prophesy, predict,
Yeah,
based on something.
Yeah, they don't pull shit out of their ass.
We know that the Earth goes around the sun. We know which direction it's going and at what speed it goes at. So in
Yeah,
1
and
year's
this-
time, we know where we'll be.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
but this is the sort of not so much an apocalypse, but the closest thing to a worldwide disaster that was predicted by science, which has actually not been too far off the truth, which was the millennium. Because this was something which, in case those of you don't remember, but the problem was that after 1999, I should say there was an end of the world prediction in 1999 because it was on the 9th of September, because the date is 9999.
Yeah, it's your placeholder to go to 0.
Yeah, and everybody said, what
If-
comes after that? And the answer
If
is
the
0.
clock only had 2 digits, making the
Yes.
assumption the first 2 are 19, when it goes to 00, it goes back to 1900.
Oh!
And this was actually true in some places. Some places didn't change their computing systems.
Yeah.
And the thing was that the effects of Y2K were predicted things like banking crashes, which
Well, like
I can't personally
Planes would
understand.
fall out of the sky for absolutely no
See,
reason.
but the thing is, though, that kind of fear of what was happening, there was something legitimate to it. What happened?
Yeah.
The tower that reads correctly, and another one doesn't.
Yeah.
Or the
And-
plane, rather, has the incorrect date, and the tower has the correct date.
And I haven't fully
If
researched
your
this properly,
bank doesn't
but-
work, well, it's a minor inconvenience. You know, you can't use the ATM. You might just have to wait a couple days. No
Yeah.
big deal. It doesn't affect anything. But a
Yeah.
military installation with a nuclear weapon, those computers don't use clocks.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of thought.
So there was no fear there.
I wondered how on earth it was that these computers resetting to 1900 would actually cause things like banking crashes.
Well, when you start doing your calculations for interest,
Oh, okay.
all right,
Yes,
or
that's true.
deposits, or billing,
I haven't actually. This is only from the Wikipedia article. I haven't read it before, but it said of one date-related banking failure due to Y2K. So yeah, as much as people like to think that the hype was over-exaggerated, first of all, it's worth pointing out that a lot of people did correct for it and thus averted data.
but again, we knew of it, we recognized the problem, we came up with a solution, and we had time to do something
I
about
mean,
it.
it was a bitch for programmers and stuff like that who had to correct all the computer things, but they knew this was going to happen and they had prepared for it well beforehand. So, you know, everyone freaking out about Y2K and shit like that. But but the thing is that Y2K had many different aspects about it. I mean, people were like, "Oh, it's going to be the end of the world." It's going to be, other people were like, "Oh, it's just the computers are going to crash and the planes are going to fall out of the sky." People had a lot of different takes.
I actually know someone who went out and bought a 1954 plane, okay, because that car had a catalytic converter, no seatbelts, and no computer in it.
Wait, what would the seatbelts do? Strangle the people to death?
Oh, he had a fear of seatbelts too. Don't worry about that.
What the fuck?
Oh, seatbelts kill. Okay, seatbelts kill you.
Imagine.
All right. But anyway,
Somebody
he
whose
bought,
advice I'm really going to start taking. You know that, don't you?
he bought that car specifically so when 2001 or when the year 2000 hit, his car would work.
Oh.
Okay. Then I told him, well, the battery might not work, so he went out and bought another car battery
Oh, Jesus.
because that way it wasn't a part of the car; it was separate, and therefore it wouldn't be affected because there's no circuit to it.
Yeah.
He actually believed that yes, the planes would actually fall from the sky. I'm not talking about not being able to take off and land. I mean actually fall.
I said, well, presumably as it swept across the time, planes fly.
That's going to get there eventually, isn't it?
Mm.
What happens when
Concorde could fly faster than that. What if we all hopped on Concorde and flew faster than the Earth can turn? Would we go back in time?
Yeah, but you wouldn't have the rain.
I can just imagine the plane flying through the sky, the 747. It's like, oh, it's 1900. I haven't been invented yet. I've got to crash until I'm invented again.
Loads of people die tapping their watches and holding them up to their ears.
So when everyone talks about someone like these weird people and what they believe, I've actually known someone who really did believe this stuff.
I am so sorry.
Yeah.
And
just a side note, he did live in a basement.
Also supposed to launch. Every nuclear missile in the world was also supposed to launch because it thought it was 1900, so it thought it should launch.
Puppy Turtle, why would they launch when the computers that launch them do not have computers?
I have no idea, but
What time it is.
That's because people
Look
are
at
fucking
those horrible
stupid.
Martians.
Yeah.
People are dumb,
Those
so
Martians
they speak out of ignorance, and they're like, "Oh shit, that must be right."
Yeah. But you are right though. There was a clear scenario with the launching of missiles because
The date was set to 1900.
yeah.
So the fact that computers weren't invented in 1900, with the exception of Babbage's difference engine,
Mm-hmm.
Skynet would become fully aware.
unless they
So in
had
other
something like,
They're going to take out Mafeking.
Yeah.
it could also be some bizarre computer program, like in the event of any kind of crash, the fail-safe position is to launch all the nuclear missiles in one go.
Well, that's fail-safe, isn't
That
it?
would be fucking scary.
Yeah. Considering that nuclear missiles do not launch on automatic.
Yeah.
Operators get code, put the codes in, put their keys in, and
Turn
launch
them at the same time. Boom.
Yes. And
Yeah,
one man
but the-
can't do it. You need two.
But what if the computers get confused and frightened and turn against their creators?
Oh,
Well,
that's
this
Skynet,
kind of-
exactly.
One of the reasons why nobody put anything on the moon, because there was actually plans in the 1950s to actually put nuclear missiles on the moon. Apart from the fact that it would take about 4 or 5 days for them to get here, the idea was
You'd also have a bit of trouble with aiming.
well, not really, no. I mean, you just give them a
Well, I
terrible
suppose. I suppose not. I suppose not.
Now, it's a
All they're
fucking
gonna do
nuclear
basically
bomb.
is-
How accurate do you really need to be?
Well, pretty accurate. I mean, you
You
don't
know,
just
when you're
want to-
talking about miles of radius, if I don't hit your city center, it's quite okay.
Yeah, but what if you aim at Japan and it just so happens that the US is facing the moon at the moment when it strikes?
Well, that's why you don't do that. The shit correctly.
There's people at mission control going, wait for it now.
The whole
Rick,
idea was
who had the
they
plan
would
to put the
launch
missiles on the
automatically
moon?
if they didn't get communications telling them to stop. The whole idea behind it being a long-term deterrent.
Who had the plans to put missiles on the moon? Was that
Oh,
the-
it's probably not even true. It was probably a bit of spin in the Cold War.
Probably.
Yeah, I mean, they came up with a lot of these strange plans. I mean, putting
Yeah.
things up in orbit. That's why we have the non-proliferation in space treaties.
Well, there was that documentary with Clint Eastwood in it where they went up into space to fix this satellite, which had missiles on it.
Can I just say we have another caller on the line? He's not doing the tech this week. We have Colin Masson. Say hello.
Hi everyone.
The fuck have you been, traitor?
I've been a fucking for ass.
Because you weren't here.
People have had to put up with James because you weren't here.
But this the talk of Y2K and the fact that most people averted this is, kind of throws up another problem when it comes to prophecies, is the subject of destiny, whether or not the prophecies will be fulfilled regardless, or whether once that prophecy has been made, people know about it and are able to defy it.
Well, it's the essential difference between prophecy and planning, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, obviously with science, they don't prophesy, they plan or they calculate, so it's obvious that they are possible to avoid. But then, I mean, if, for example, if a prophecy is made, is it worth doing anything to fight against it? Because it may be that you're playing into the hands of the prophecy.
If somebody says that
Well, the thing is that all these predictions have to be so vague that they I mean, they're so vague that eventually some of them may appear right. I mean, yes. I mean, if you predict a disease that could possibly wipe out the species, that is very well possible. If you predict that, there's going to be a hurricane that's going to destroy a city, okay, that's very well possible. You know, it's. I mean, unless they predict stuff that, if somebody predicted something that bent the laws of nature and that came true, I would maybe start believing that they had some merits. But until then, I'm going to be skeptical.
But the point is, should you be doing anything about it? I mean, it's a kind of a Pascal's wager. If somebody says there is a disease and it's going to, I don't know, it's going to in Kazakhstan. But I mean, there are things that you could try and do. You could try and set up a quarantine zone as soon as a disease emerges in Kazakhstan.
You can actually have the contingency plans there, but then again, this is actually a plausible threat.
Well,
guys, let me ask you one here. Who uses like power tools like a table saw here?
I do.
Okay,
Yeah,
have you ever been cut with a table saw?
No.
Thankfully not.
Okay. At some point, it's not a matter of if you get cut. It's a matter of when you get cut.
Yes,
as long as you keep using that table saw, you will have a greater and greater chance of getting cut.
Yeah, but the thing is that the reason I'm not afraid of some kind of worldwide epidemic
and for using that table saw is you use it safely, you use it smart, you use the proper guide, and don't cut things you shouldn't cut with it, and you maintain.
Right. Supposing you have a dream in which you get cut by this table saw, and you think that it might be a vision of the future, should you try and put in various extra safety measures and try and train yourself to use it more safely in the chance of avoiding it? I guess it's a kind of a Pascal's wager that
it depends on how you regularly use the saw. If you use the table saw on a regular basis, then yes, because that's probably your subconscious telling you you're doing something dangerous.
There's also another thing here. If you are currently using the table saw in a correct manner, safely and with the correct protection in place, changing something most likely will increase because it will change your routine to actually injure yourself.
Yeah.
That's my experience with these things.
Well, I hear wide, any kind of worldwide bug is because I know that Madagascar will eventually be the refuge for humanity.
Yeah, if you've ever played the game Pandemic 2, where you have to infect the world, Madagascar, unless you start in Madagascar to infect it, it's impossible to infect the world in that game.
Oh, that was the joke I was going for. Yep.
Actually, what's with Madagascar?
It's a joke from a game called Pandemic 2. You're supposed to infect the world by basically spreading the disease around, and Madagascar always closes its ports, its airports, everything. So it's almost impossible to infect Madagascar.
Okay. Because it's an island.
Yeah, exactly.
But do you get a shipment of zoo animals from New York? Where we a party of boogie and boomers. And
what you could do is
is that the way to finish it?
Start the Madagascar fan club. Contact them, send them out there.
I just go to Madagascar.
But this point I'm still trying to get round to is, if you were genuinely convinced that something is a prophecy, do you go on the basis that you should do everything you can to try and stop it happening because you've got nothing to lose by doing so, or is it the case that by doing something like that you're still following along with it?
Well, I think we can say this is actually a safe area for the argument from authority. Let's go back to me in the 1980s. If you'd have sat me next to, say, David Icke and said, what is the chance of being in the future? If I'd say pretty high, then it would be a case of you probably trust me because I had the uniform, I had the background, I had the knowledge from my actual job. If you asked David Icke, and he said, well, gave exactly the same answer, would you necessarily trust him as much as you would me?
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry, I don't know who David Icke is.
Oh, dear.
Is this something from the UK?
Well,
Yes, he is.
Okay.
Let me
he is
just...
the Messiah.
He's your version of like a Harold Camping.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
sort of. He used to be a TV sports presenter.
He is
then-
the Lizard Meister.
But then started to claim things like the fact that he was the son of God, i.e. he was the second coming, and that the royal family were all a race of aliens and other things. So he's somebody who started out rather well and then seemed to go a bit cuckoo.
I mean, 99.9% of what he says is wrong. It's that 0.1% you've got to worry about.
Well, then at least you know when he is talking, you know he is wrong.
Yeah, this is the point I'm making. Would you listen to him making a prediction like that, or would you listen to a professional? Because if a professional says it, you're going to trust that person, aren't you?
Yeah.
If somebody like Harold Camping comes along and says,
Yeah,
you're not
you at least give the professional a little more credit for what they're saying.
Exactly, yeah.
Because they're 99% right rather than the 1% right.
Yeah, but the problem is they're not making a prophecy, they're making a prediction. They're making a prediction based on statistics and on knowledge. Somebody who's not doing that is just making a prophecy.
I mean, if you're, so you're, that's an interesting prophecy. I always thought they were basically synonymous.
Oh, no.
No. Puppy Turtle, I'll give you a prediction right now. Within 2 weeks, money will be put into my bank account.
Let me
And
guess.
this
You're
will
with.
But I would argue, that's not
on
really
a
a Christmas
Thursday.
And
See, I know exactly what's going to happen and when it's going to happen.
And to make sure I
Are you
understand,
a
let me
wizard?
see if I can tell you a prophecy. Someday,
Are you going to read from the Bible?
You're a
no.
wizard.
Okay, thank you.
Someday a
Now, you're aware that we
gigantic,
actually need access to your bank account to check that.
someday a gigantic bearded dragon lizard standing on its hind legs will eat a human being while singing the Pledge of Allegiance.
Are you sure that's not in the Bible?
That's not the Bible. I made that up.
Well, I'm pretty sure we can find somebody who can find the scripture to back up what you said.
It's in weirdos.
Yeah, if you take every 30-second letter, and in only the French translation, if you take every 30-second letter, arrange it in a grid that's 5 by 17, and you know, and
Are you talking Bible code?
yeah, I was thinking.
I really want to see someone take the Encyclopedia Britannica and apply Bible code to it and see what comes up.
Somebody has.
I really want to see what the results are there.
There is somebody who's actually done comparisons with various other books and come up with all kinds of weird and wild and wacky stuff.
Yeah.
Which sounds just as good as the Bible code.
But then again, you do the same thing and then you discard what doesn't work.
Yeah, I mean, I see if I
You
can
just you
dig
keep
out
looking for a
the.
better blanket.
That's the way with prophecy not coming true. The prediction, you've got to explain why it didn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
Indeed.
I see. I'll put this up on the screen. I don't know how well it'll come out, but this is the well, that isn't it? It's the Bible code which supposedly predicts 9/11, because they take the. I think I mentioned this before. They take the 9th letter of every word, or rather the 9th letter of every single letter in the Book of Revelations, and then arrange them into an 11 by 11 grid, and these words start to emerge. I can't find the one I saw now. And there's one of the columns reads something like "towers fall" and.
That's the thing. It's the correct thing to do every 9th letter because you say so. It's the correct thing to do an 11 by 11 grid because you say so.
Yes, so of course, it was an effort. Some people like to tie it to.
Well, the point is,
Um,
if you use enough of those rules on any text, you will find a hidden message.
Mm-hmm.
yes.
Or at least words start to pop up.
The thing is, there's also a lot of gobbledygook mixed in with those words like Towers Fall. I think there's something like, I can't remember what it was now. Like the word fart is in there or something.
Well, sound. Do you know why the Twin Towers were hit by 2 planes on September 11th?
Because
that's the day they chose to do it?
That was the day they bought the tickets for, and it was a Tuesday. Most people will be back to work.
Oh, I see. So it was planned. So Al Qaeda had their very specific reasoning behind it.
Most people will take a long weekend Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And some
Monday.
people also take a Monday.
Yeah.
Okay. Therefore, you have the most impact, most people around. Why was September 11th? Well, that's when you got the plane tickets.
And also, there'll be less people on the planes to give you problems because they'll all be working.
Right.
So yeah, it was actually pretty well thought out.
They would have come back from any business trips on a Monday or a Friday and returned home for a weekend.
Can I just say, Faustin49 is about to leave us, so I'd like to thank you for being on the show.
Not a problem. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Pleasure to have you on. I hope to see you again soon.
Thanks a lot. Talk to you later.
Tell Womble we're replacing her with you. You're more functional.
Okay, thanks a lot. Anyway, I'll see you later.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Double rainbow all the way across the sky.
Lewis just has meme Tourette's.
Yeah, I have meme Tourette's. Are you a wizard?
No,
yeah, with regards to Puppy Turtle's statement about we were discussing the fact that there is a difference between a prophecy and a prediction. The thing is that a lot of the times a prediction can be calculated. I mean, Headless Chicken gave us the example of some money coming into his bank account on a specific day, and obviously the way in which
that will be a repeated pattern too.
Yes, that's the thing is that you predicted it
every 2 weeks.
The thing is that you predicted it on the basis of that pattern.
Yes.
And so I think that a lot of the prophecies in history that have come true, or a lot of certainly people who've passed themselves off as having because they know for whatever reason they have knowledge that other people don't in terms of scientific study.
There's a story of a mission. There's a story that I've heard. I don't know if this is true or not, but it's of a missionary supposedly while in Africa, got captured by cannibals. They told him that they were going to eat him, and he predicted the solar eclipse and actually was able to use that to make them think he was a wizard. He was able to convert them all to Christianity and make them stop being cannibals.
I can well believe it.
Turtle, I want you to find me even a basic shred of evidence that story's true.
I'm not claiming that it is. I just think that's just an example.
Okay.
There's a very famous one in. There's a very famous one Blog TV. We'll just get it going again.
Yes, you have. Show stop by the broadcaster.
Hello.
Hi, Rumble.
Okay, guys, they can still hear us, you know.
Okay.
Can they? Hello, everyone. Sorry
Okay.
I'm late. Hello, it's Womble. I'm Womble.
We're back and broadcasting. We're now actually broadcasting
I'm
as a
still
music
locked
show now, unfortunately. But there is a famous example of science being used to make an apparently magical prediction in the Canterbury Tales. I think it's the Pardoner's Tale, where a woman promises a man that she will marry him if he can ensure that, I think it's her husband or her son or something like that, gets a safe passage home by boat. She makes that promise in the way that He has to make these submerged rocks in the sea vanish so that his ship can sail safely through. And what he does is he studies the pattern of the tides and finds a date on which the tide is going to be at its highest. And he says that is the day when he will come home. And of course, she goes and looks and sees that the rocks have disappeared, and she thinks that he has magical abilities. So I think that even if you look back through history and find predictions or prophecies which have been true, if it seems that there is a natural explanation for how they came to that conclusion, chances are it's probably true.
Actually, sound that story you told about the disappearing rocks.
Yeah.
That would be an example of someone having knowledge of something.
Yeah.
Based on their experiences, that the greater body of people around them. It looks like magic. It looks like you've done something special, but you really haven't.
Yeah, I think in the Cardinal Stone he goes and consults an astronomer.
Works.
That's what my example with the cannibals was. I mean, the guy knew the solar eclipse was coming, and I am not positive if that really happened or not. I've heard it told as fact. But that's what that would be. You know, if you know the solar eclipse is coming and it just happens to be coming, you can say, "You cannibals better not eat me, or I'll make the sun disappear."
Yeah.
No?
Womble, we kept your seat warm for you while you were away. You had a news item that you wanted to share. I didn't know whether you wanted to do that now.
Yeah, I can do. Let me get my brain in gear.
This was by trading standards in the UK, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. Just saying, I am getting on a roll. I'm a space cadet due to excessive alcohol last night. Anyway.
Yeah, Wendell is hungover, ladies and gentlemen.
I know, I'm not hungover. I'm just tired. I've got all the alcohol's out my system. It just drained out all the other random stuff that it does. But I don't know how many of the viewers are in the UK. And I know this will apply to Australia and a couple of other places. But it's going to be expanding. Now, what we have in the UK is various bodies of people that we can get late if someone is making unjustified claims about a product. And what this thing is, I'm talking about all these sorts of things. They're used to try and sort of deal with quacks. So you might go in and see a shop, a claim to do with a product curing or and in the UK, we can go to things like trading standards. There's also the Advertising Standards Authority or agency. And we can put a complaint across, and they will, depending on which organisation and how they understand how the legislation behind it works, they will have something done about it. Now, up until recently, the ASA didn't deal with things that were on the internet. But on the 1st of March, that changed. So anything in the UK that's a false claim, some quacky kind of healing thing to do with getting rid of your psoriasis or eczema or whatever, and it's on a website, you can now put in a complaint. Now, the person that I heard this from and about the thing that I'm going to tell you is quite an active skeptic and has been involved in big campaigns to do with things like the chiropodists, chiropractors even.
What is a chiropodist?
They do feet. But the chiropractors had been claiming that they could help with things like whooping cough and asthma.
Oh, so these are the chiropractors in the UK. Okay.
Yeah. Chiropractors, yeah. And he was IT trained, and he thought that, with this new thing for the ASA, the complaints, because you can do it by the internet, great, it's going to be like shooting fish in a barrel. But when he found out, when he had to play about with it, it took him about 15 minutes to get a complaint done, and you had to sort of jump between different windows and copy text and take screen captures and stuff like that, and it was just really complicated. And he's an IT bod. So what he did was he came up with a little program, and he called it Fish Barrel. Now, Fish Barrel only worked on Google Chrome. So if you're like me, you don't have Google Chrome as your browser, you could just get it for doing this. You can install this little app. If you Google Fish Barrel and the chap's name is Simon Perry, you should come up to find his blog and be able to download this app. And what it does is it works within Chrome, and you go to the Quack site, and you can activate the Fish Barrel app, and you highlight the text, and you can take your screen captures, and it saves the images on an external server that he uses. If you don't process your claim or your report thing within 2 days, the images will get lost. But basically, it for you within no time at all. He showed us this. In about a couple of minutes, you can have a full claim or report thing put forward, and you can click on which agency you want to go in the UK, and I think there's something else that's on there. Now, as I said, this is mostly in the UK, and he's in Australia at the moment. I will remember that from this guy's talk. But he's also wanting to get it into sort of formats for as many other countries. So even if it's not covering your country, what you could do is, if you've got any skills in programming, you could see if you could contact him and see if he could help out. Because the idea is, what the program does is it will remember whether or not there's been a thing flagged up with a website that you're looking at, so you don't complain about the same site twice. And it's a nice way of people working together to try and deal with some of the quackery that goes on.
So this is an automatic skeptic bullshit buster. So what have you invented?
Yeah,
exactly. He's not coordinating it at all. It's still, a person going and saying, this looks like bullshit. And doing all the stuff. But he's made
software to help you organize your claims.
Exactly. It's not
what he has written is what he has written is software that automates a lot of what you need to do manually with normal input.
Yeah.
You're going to put Concordance out of business with this. He's not going to be able to make
it. You know that's been done already. You don't have to waste your time doing it.
Yes.
You can go on to the next quack. Then that way you'll speed up everybody who's doing this to get all the quack sites shut down.
Plus, it lowers the threshold for someone actually filling in the form.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot easier to fill in the form in like 2 minutes or to spend 15 minutes.
Yes, I mean, I've reported adverts before. I forget who it was. There was a YouTuber, I think it might have been Answers, who was an ad supported by Google for, I think it was the Church of Scientology, because he said that the claims that they were making, that they would be able to answer questions of things like where we came from, what happens after you die, and so on, which they were saying on their advert. You could report them for if you didn't believe that they could deliver on those claims. But it was an absolute pain in that you did have to create screen dumps and send them, which obviously involved opening a different window or opening a new tab, screen dumping that, cropping it, posting it into the browser, saying where you found the advert and so on. So it would be quite good if we can actually find something that does this all automatically.
We're going to put Concordance out of business with this.
Well, it's not exactly like he earns money from, maybe he does earn money from scam busting.
Yeah, but I mean, it's like he will run out of video topics.
Or just presents the information they're giving you.
That's true.
Scientific terms, in terms you'll actually understand this is really what they're doing and how it works, and leaves it to you to decide whether or not you now want to go forward with it.
Yeah, if there's one thing I don't like about Concordance is that he's a bit too balanced, which I know really isn't a bad thing. But
he's not telling you how to think.
No.
Yeah.
He's just presenting you with balanced information, and then it's up to you to decide if you want to really...
and proper information as well, i.e. the peer-reviewed literature on the subject rather than blogs.
I'm sorry, this is so hilarious. Hate to interrupt. It's a little off topic, but I recently made a video response to the Stigma Dane, and he's left a comment on my channel that says, "You're a little close-minded prick, fuck you punk asshole, fuck off."
Oh, join the club. I think this is automatic.
I hear that response all the time to people.
Mm. He got really angry at me when I quoted what was it, 1 Peter chapter 3 verse 15 through 17. That is like a red flag on him.
Remind us of that passage again. What it's about.
Basically, it says from you may defend your faith as a Christian, but do so in a kind way to the non-believer.
Right.
And considering how what his standard responses are to people, you can imagine how he took it.
Yeah. Although presumably he didn't see the irony in blowing his lid at you in response to that.
It's hilarious.
He actually blocked me for that.
My comments are still on pending approval because I haven't figured out how to turn that setting off yet. Should I approve these comments?
I would simply just ignore him.
I got blocked for saying that CS Bear wasn't a troll. That was all I did. Boom.
Hilarious. I do. It's hilarious. I make the point in that video in question. It's like I'm like I mentioned that that he started blaming CS Bear for everything. It's like he burns the fresh baked cookies he's making, and he's like, CS Bear.
Bit like the con.
Know that CS Bear came in and turned up the heat on the oven.
Yeah, because that's what all CS Bear has time to do in his day is.
Yeah, that's all he does.
Around.
CS Bear drugged him, so he fell asleep, and the cookies were in there for 4 days.
Yeah. He also calls me CS Bear's puppet, which is ironic because I came to accept evolution very before I get there. But of course, something bad has happened in Stig's life. Me accepting science, so.
Dutch Liam has just said that the Stig Dane is autistic. I don't think he is, because as we all know, autism is a belief system, and we all know that he's actually autistic.
Yes. Yes, autism. Well, okay. To Neff's credit, he claims that's a typo, and I'm willing to believe him.
No. But he said that.
Me if he believed that.
He said that all isms were belief systems, which isn't true.
If he thought it was true, then he would still be defending it now.
I don't know if that's.
If you really do catch him on when he's gone wrong, he will backpedal.
So wait a minute. Sound.
Yeah.
All isms are belief systems.
Yeah.
We have Taoism, communism, atheism, capitalism,
cynicism,
Christianity. Nope, that's not an ism. Cynicism.
Yeah, as I say,
it is an ism.
So Christianity is not a belief system.
It's not a typo at all, really. But I should say, Puppy Turtle, that what would you say about Neff claiming that he never said he was a geocentrist, in spite of the fact that in one of his videos he said the words, "I'm a geocentrist"?
I'm thinking of doing a video pointing, because, the argument they make for geocentrism is that if you were to take one of those orreries and grab onto it, I'm actually thinking of doing a video. If you were to take an orrery and grab onto Saturn, now grab onto Io, now grab onto the Hubble telescope.
Yeah, they say that you can't tell
guys.
Just by relative.
The thing
we don't know anything else about how the whole universe works.
Yeah,
the Earth isn't moving. Once you get off it and you watch the whole system, or take some better measurements and have a better understanding, then you see that you are moving in relation to other objects.
Thing is, if you go for the geocentric model,
it's just a point of perspective.
Nick, you let me finish.
Okay.
And you try and plot the orbits of the planets for everything else to be orbiting the sun, because I think it's the sun orbits the Earth and everything else orbits it.
That's the new
Mars,
heliocentrism, yeah.
Yeah, it's things like Mars have to do some strange whacked out motions to maintain that. So it just doesn't work.
It's also that, they say it's all just a point of view option, but there's plenty of evidence to show this. They're higher on the, let me get this right, they're higher on the the western edges of them because the Earth is turning to the east. So basically the oceans are continually washing up against them. There's things like that they just ignore. So yeah, but
I can't find it anymore, but there's a video on YouTube of someone who did a little animation of a geocentric system. And you watch the planets go around,
and they
track out their path, and then about halfway through the video, it changes to a heliocentric. And then you see the whole pattern change.
Yeah, I think it was Osmeroid.
It actually demonstrates very clearly how all this stuff turns in a geocentric orbit.
This is why we're heliocentrists, because everything just goes straight in a circle. Every other direction from
the way that they see it
the
is
circle
that
is the simplified version of looking at it. We're not.
They say that the Earth,
they're relatively close to circular, but they're just slightly squished.
Yeah, has anyone here ever looked at why geocentrists put the Earth at the center of the system?
Because it implies in the Bible that God fixed
If we let to the people that put together the idea that the Earth was the center of the universe, they only really knew of the sun as moving across the sky. Yep. We have no actual way of sensing if we walk around outside the Earth moving, but they could see that the sun moved, so that made sense to what they knew.
When you had your base elements, fire, earth, water.
Yeah. If you go back to those sorts of times,
everything was made of those.
Geocentrism works.
The Earth was all heavy, and so all things fell towards it.
I understood that all things which were made of earth, amongst other things, fell to earth. So fire and air, for instance, were ethereal, and things that were made of fire and air, like fire and air, floated away from the earth.
And they don't come in as close. That's why the Earth is at the center. It has really nothing to do with the whole thing with the planets and stuff and orbits and how.
I think there are other civilizations which I think a lot of people have come to the conclusion that the Earth must be the center simply because that's what it looks and feels like.
People assume the Earth is at
and it makes sense.
Special, but really it's there because it's just the heaviest thing. It's basically a garbage can sucking everything in.
Yeah. Anyway, we've strayed a little bit off topic.
We've gotten off our prophecy discussion here.
Yeah. So we could get Shades in just to ask him about his biblical prophecy.
I don't know if I'm in the right state of mind to deal with that sort of thing right now.
I have not.
You don't have to speak.
I don't know.
I don't like just listening in.
I know,
it was when I crawled to where I was sleeping. It was starting to get light this morning.
You mean where you crawl to where you're sleeping, the Womble Burrow?
Well, I was basically camping is what everyone was doing because it was still there now. But because I was just going there for the one night, so I slept in a metal tent, which is the back seat of my car.
I was going to say a metal tent.
Metal tent on wheels.
Even I don't even think I would have figured that one out.
Sorry?
It's called a car.
I know. I'm talking about now because
Nostradamus predicted it back in 1553 or whatever.
Predicted that I would get horrendously drunk and then
there will be a metal car with wheels with an inebriated woman in the back. But before we go,
Stellarium. I'm going to get in Stellarium and predict the solar eclipse real quick. Hold on.
Oh no.
What?
Yeah, but this isn't a prophecy, is it? Really?
Yes, true.
There's no divine insight here.
I was going to.
If you're predicting a solar eclipse that nobody else knows about, then we'll be very interested to hear. But yeah, We've got about 10
I
minutes
predict
left.
that in 2012, a large invisible planet that cannot be seen is hurtling towards the Earth and will not show up.
If the next time I go to a laughing, I'm joking.
I meant to talk about today. We've got about 10 minutes left, so it'll probably have to be the last thing.
Oh, dear Lord.
Isn't it supposed to be populated entirely by reptilians?
No.
Well, they're pretty, they're perhaps not pretty stupid or pretty unfortunate.
It's
Us.
Which are not reptilians.
Yeah. But are they deliberately sending the planet here? I don't know why I'm even asking this question as if I really care about the answer.
What I've understood from Nibiru is that that's just a planet with a long period.
Oh, okay.
That just shows up every, couple of thousand years or 100
But
years?
I've never seen it before.
Because we weren't looking in the right of space to pull a line from the atrocity that is Armageddon. You know, you have X amount to space to look in space.
Like,
whole lot of
it's
space.
supposed to show up every 1,000 years, and it showed up in 2012.
The same order of all the previous records of it.
Oh, okay.
Did you not get the memo?
No, I didn't. They probably got rid of that.
Obviously not at the kind of the right echelons in the New World Order.
It's
Yeah,
36.
they got rid of the memo.
I think it's 3,600, not 1,000. And yes, I'm absolutely positive that the rec cards think that it's populated by reptilians.
Give me proof and evidence that Nibiru is accurate and correct.
Can I just tell you one of the arguments that I've heard as to why we can't see or detect Nibiru? One of the arguments was that it was on the other side of the sun.
Which doesn't make sense.
No, not even from a heliocentric perspective.
Well, no, if it's kind of in a kind of paired orbit with the Earth and that they're both
It could fire on the side of the sun.
Yeah, but that requires some really odd...
No, because if it's on the opposite side of the sun, as it's coming in and you're moving away from it, you're going to see it coming in. If you got to the other side and it's arcing around now, you'd miss it, you'd watch it go away. It can't hide behind the sun the entire time.
Exactly.
You'll see it coming and going.
Unless it's really bizarre.
Theoretically, it's possible that you could have two planets of kind of size and density and all that stuff in the same velocity, but they're away from each other.
But the point with Nibiru is that it should pass close to the Earth, though. Yeah, there you go.
Another one is that it's only visible from the South Pole. I think by that they mean dead on the South Pole.
Falls in if they're claiming that.
Yeah.
What's the opposite of the pole star? There's one in the south. Is it the Southern Cross?
Mm-hmm.
It's virtually on line with the Earth's axis. So if you can see that from the equator.
They pick the south.
What one thing that I've heard that this is just a funny thing. They say that the reptilians. I'm not positive if they've made this excuse for Nibiru, but I know the reptilians are supposed to reflect a different wavelength of light off of them, so we can't see them.
Wait, whoa. One
Okay.
problem with that. If it doesn't reflect anything, it is a perfect black body. It would still block the light of stars it passes in front of.
Okay, hold on a sec there, Puppy Turtle. And I'll break here, but I would call it I'm not a physicist, but I do understand how light works.
Yeah, you don't have to be.
Okay, now, the reason why we see color is because the object is reflecting that portion of the spectrum.
Yeah.
So if you're not reflecting the wavelength of light, you appear black.
And even though
therefore, if you come across something which is colored, I will see you as a black shape. Because I can't see the light reflecting off of you. That's why when you turn the lights out, you don't see anything because there's no light reflecting off the object.
Yeah, and as well, the visible spectrum is actually only a tiny portion of the electromagnetic spectrum.
Yes.
So therefore, you could be reflecting X-rays and ultraviolet, but still appear black to a human eye.
I know, but what I'm saying is, even if for some reason we didn't get any reflection in visible range, we've still got the electromagnetic spectrum, which has got energy from that, has been bombarded out from the sun, and the Earth is getting hit by ultraviolet rays, infrared rays, all sorts of rays.
Would you not also see it, like,
we can't see them with our eyes, we've got equipment that will detect them.
Would we not also see it like we see a black hole where we don't actually see it, but we see what's missing?
Yeah.
Because of all the background around it, and you see a blank spot in the middle?
Yeah, I mean, is there really much point arguing about this when the bottom line is that it's all a load of bullshit?
At least debunking the bullshit.
That's true.
You know.
The fun of debunking is that you can actually learn something from it.
Fun. I plan to dedicate a little bit of my time in the future to actually dealing with the reptilian. A guy called Star Gods, in which he talks about how the reptilian shapeshift by manipulating their DNA, and that then changes them to make them look human.
Puppy Turtle, before you do that reptilian project, I want to ask you to do something when you do it. First, where are you going to get your information from?
Hello?
Hello?
Puppy Turtle.
Puppy.
Yeah.
Where are you going?
Oh, no, hang a minute. He's back.
Oh, you back? Okay.
I'm here. I'm here. I was thinking. I never thought of tracking down a source. Darn it.
Okay. So what source are you going to use for your information?
I will have to find one. It is in
Start with one. That's the starting one.
Okay.
Use Wikipedia, and I know people think it's intellectually lazy, but it's just a starting block.
It can be good. It's a good starting point because it's got all the links at the bottom.
Right, and then go to the links at the bottom and start those up. And when you make your video, cite where your information comes by providing the links in the description bar that goes below your video. Okay? Are you going to be able to do that?
Yes.
All right.
Good. Excellent. Right, well, I think it's almost time to wrap up today's show. Lewis, are you still there?
I think he died.
No, okay, because he started off presenting the show, but I think it's come down to me now. I should say, in fact, Blue Juggernaut was supposed to be presenting the show, but he's not. Yeah. So that's a real photograph.
Oh, really? They took that from Pluto.
But yes, so just time before I go to thank my guests for this week. In no particular order, we had Elifad 1991. We had Angry Womble. Say goodbye. We had Colin Marson showing up.
Yeah, for once.
That's the non-tech guy.
Yeah, it's the reason why the tech has sucked, unfortunately. I apologise to everyone. The Puppy Turtle.
Hiya.
And Headless Chicken, both of them called in. Say goodbye, Headless Chicken.
Oh, goodbye, Headless Chicken.
We had Fashion 49 earlier on. A little quick reminder of a special Magic Sandwich show that is going to be on tomorrow. They are from, I think it's the UK Atheist Convention, or the European Atheist Convention.
I know, they're in Dublin. There's probably going to be lots of alcohol.
They will be having as special guest.
So they got him?
Tune in for that one. I believe they have.
They managed to find him.
He's definitely going to be there. Whether or not they can persuade him to be on the show, I'm not sure whether that's yet set in stone, but I think he might have said yes.
Okay.
But anyway, it's going to be a really good show, so do tune in for that tomorrow. I don't know if Trolling with Logic is going to be on, given that they'll be on at the same time as the Magic Sandwich. We'll find something about that and put it on our blog.
If you can listen, let us know if Trolling with Logic is going to be on, because he's in chat at the moment.
Right, and so it's goodbye from all of us. We'll be back in 2 weeks' time, hopefully with better sound. Until then...
Yes, you need to improve sound.
Yeah, well done, Womble. So then...
I might be recovering, but I'm not that slow. Great.
Goodbye, everyone.